50 insane facts about Edinburgh, Scotland. Did you know that Edinburgh is built on top of an extinct volcano? Or that one point in time the city was so overcrowded people literally lived in underground streets? How about the fact Edinburgh had more brothels per capita than any other European city in the 1700s? Well, Edinburgh is overflowing with wild facts like this. Some of them you won't believe are true. So stay tuned as we reel off 50 of them. Fact 50. The city built on 7 hills. Most people think Edinburgh is just one big castle on a rock, but that's not the whole story. Edinburgh is actually built across 7 distinct hills, earning it the nickname Athens of the North. Arthur's Seat, Calton Hill, Corstorphine Hill, Craiglockhart Hill, Braid Hill, Blackford Hill, and Castle Rock all make up the city's dramatic topography. And here's the crazy part. You're not just looking at random bumps. You're seeing the remnants of ancient volcanic activity that shaped the entire region. The 7 hills give Edinburgh its distinctive skyline that you can recognize from miles away. So the next time you're huffing up one of Edinburgh's steep streets, remember you're literally climbing up a geological history book. Fact 49. Extinct volcano city. Hard to believe, but Edinburgh Castle sits on top of an extinct volcano called Castle Rock. About 350 million years ago, during the Carboniferous period, this volcano was actively erupting, spewing lava across what would become Scotland's capital. The plug of hardened lava that remained after the volcano died became the perfect defensive position. Imagine swapping today's tourist attraction for an actual erupting volcano with lava flows running down the Royal Mile. Then, almost like magic, it went dormant, leaving behind the craggy rock formation that's become one of the most iconic fortress locations in the world. Fact 48. Crag and Tail Formation. Edinburgh Castle wasn't just lucky to be on a volcano. It sits on a textbook example of a crag and tail formation. When massive Ice Age glaciers moved eastward across Scotland, they hit the hard volcanic plug of Castle Rock and couldn't grind through it. Instead, the ice flowed around it, protecting the softer rock behind and creating a long sloping tail that extends down what's now the Royal Mile. Picture massive rivers of ice doing what water does to create islands in a stream, slowly carving the landscape until they created the perfect military stronghold. Today, you're looking at Ice Age geography that determined where Scotland's kings would build their fortress. Fact 47. Arthur's Seat Lion. Rising 822 feet in the middle of the city, Arthur's Seat looks like a crouching lion when viewed from certain angles. But here's the catch. This hill isn't a hill at all. It's the remains of another extinct volcano that erupted around 340 million years ago. When Edinburgh residents go for their morning jog or weekend hike, they're literally climbing up solidified lava flows and volcanic rock. Today, you're looking at prehistoric volcanic activity that's now a protected, scheduled ancient monument, sitting right in the heart of Scotland's capital. Fact 46. Underground city Edinburgh isn't just historic buildings and cobblestone streets. Hidden beneath the Royal Mile lies an entire underground city, the Edinburgh Vaults. In the late 1700s, when the South Bridge was built, the 19 arches were filled in to create storage spaces for taverns and cobblers. But things got dark quickly. These underground chambers became home to the city's poorest residents, taverns, and even criminals. From massive stone vaults that once housed legitimate businesses, to tiny chambers where Edinburgh's most desperate citizens lived in complete darkness. Edinburgh is a historian's nightmare, and a ghost tour operator's paradise. Fact 45. Most haunted city. Here's Edinburgh's best-kept secret, or maybe worst-kept, depending on how you feel about ghosts. The city is widely considered the most haunted city in Europe, possibly the world. with over 300 documented ghost sightings and countless paranormal stories. Edinburgh's dark history literally haunts its present. Take Greyfriars Kirkyard, where the Mackenzie poltergeist has reportedly attacked over 450 people since the 1990s. All this supernatural activity comes from Edinburgh's brutal past. Plague victims, witch burnings, body snatchers, and overcrowded graveyards where the dead weren't always left to rest in peace. Fact 44. Body Snatchers' Paradise. Edinburgh's medical schools were among the world's best in the 1800s, but they had a gruesome problem. Not enough cadavers for anatomy lessons. Enter the Resurrection Men. Body snatchers who dug up fresh graves in places like Greyfriars Kirkyard to sell corpses to medical schools. The most infamous were Burke and Hare, who decided digging up bodies was too much work and just started murdering people instead, killing at least 16 victims. Iron cages over graves in Edinburgh cemeteries want their loved ones ending up on a dissection table. Fact 43. Witches' Burning Ground. That's right. Scotland's capital was ground zero for one of history's darkest chapters. Between 1479 and 1722, Edinburgh became the site of approximately 300 witch executions, more than almost any other city in Britain. The preferred execution spot was Castle Hill, right next to where tourists now snap photos. Picture this. You could literally walk from the bustling Royal Mile to watch someone being strangled and then burned at the stake for crimes like talking to their cat or knowing herbal medicine. It's like Edinburgh decided that having a castle on a volcano wasn't dramatic enough. They needed to add mass executions to really complete the aesthetic. Fact 42. 1 o'clock gun. Think Edinburgh is just history and bagpipes? Surprise. Every single day, except Sundays, Christmas, and Good Friday, at precisely 1 p.m., a cannon fires from Edinburgh Castle. The 1 o'clock gun has been booming since 1861, originally to help ships in the Firth of Forth set their maritime clocks. Here's the shocking part, though. It scared the absolute hell out of generations of unsuspecting tourists who happened to be standing nearby when it fired. For sheer making visitors jump out of their skin count, only the castle's ghost stories beat it. So while you're picturing Edinburgh as a peaceful, historic city, it's actually got an official daily explosion scheduled like clockwork. It's basically the ultimate case of don't judge a city by its genteel reputation. Edinburgh's got more booms than a fireworks factory. Fact 41. Narrowest street. Edinburgh is officially home to some of the narrowest streets in the world. The old town's medieval layout created passages so tight you can touch both walls with your arms stretched out. Some closes, alleyways, are barely 2 feet wide. For comparison, a standard doorway is about 3 feet. That's the difference between a comfortable hallway and a claustrophobic nightmare. These impossibly narrow passages were created when Edinburgh couldn't expand outward due to its defensive walls, so it built upward and squeezed buildings together. Some passages are so narrow that medieval residents couldn't pass each other without turning sideways. The city's layout is like someone played Tetris with buildings and forgot to leave room for people. Fact 40. Tenement skyscrapers. Edinburgh's housing situation was full of extremes. During the 1700s, the Old Town was crammed onto a narrow ridge between the castle and Holyrood Palace, hemmed in by city walls and steep slopes. Buildings couldn't spread out, so they went up, way up. Edinburgh's tenements regularly reached 11 or 12 stories, making them the skyscrapers of their era and some of the tallest residential buildings in the world at the time. You could be living in squalor on the ground floor at noon, then climbing the equivalent of a modern high-rise to reach your cramped apartment in the sky. This created some truly bizarre situations, where the rich lived on middle floors, the poor lived on top, or those stairs, and the extremely poor lived in underground vaults. It's classic Edinburgh. Why have normal housing when you can create a vertical social hierarchy? Fact 39. Flying toilets. Before Edinburgh got modern plumbing, things got really messy. Residents of those tall tenements would collect their waste in chamber pots and buckets throughout the day. Then at 10 p.m., they'd open their windows and yell, "Gardez-l'eau," from the French "Gardez l'eau," watch out for the water, before dumping everything into the street below. Imagine walking through Edinburgh at night and suddenly getting hit by a shower of human waste from 10 stories up. The streets were literally rivers of sewage, and the city became known as Old Reeky, Old Smoky, partly because of the absolutely horrid smell. Few practices in urban history packed that kind of disgusting efficiency. Fact 38. Real-life Diagon Alley. Edinburgh's medieval streets don't just look magical, they actually inspired Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling wrote much of the first Harry Potter book in Edinburgh's cafes, and the city's architecture heavily influenced the wizarding world. Victoria Street, with its curved, colourful shopfronts, is widely believed to be the inspiration for Diagon Alley. The winding medieval closes, the Gothic architecture, the sense that you're walking through centuries of history. Edinburgh basically handed Rowling a ready-made magical world. Today, Potter fans make pilgrimages to spots like the Elephant House Cafe, where Rowling wrote, Greyfriars Kirkyard, where Tom Riddle's gravestone sits, yes, really, and the George Heriot School, which looks exactly like Hogwarts. Fact 37. Underground streets. Plot twist. Edinburgh has entire streets that are now underground. When the city expanded in the 18th century and built new bridges, it basically buried the old streets underneath. Mary King's Close, one of the most famous, was a thriving 17th century street that got built over when the Royal Exchange was constructed. Imagine a busy shopping street suddenly getting sealed beneath new construction, trapping centuries of history in darkness. These buried streets became Edinburgh's dirty secret, literally. They were used for storage, became slums, and eventually were just forgotten. Some claim these underground passages are haunted by plague victims and poverty-stricken residents who died in the darkness. Either way, Edinburgh literally buried its past under new construction and pretended it didn't exist. Fact 36. Plague pits. During the plague outbreaks of the 16th and 17th centuries, Edinburgh's streets ran with death. The city dealt with plague victims the only way it knew how. Mass graves. Entire families were sealed into their homes when infection was discovered, marked with a white cross on the door, and left to die. Bodies were then collected and thrown into massive plague pits throughout the city. Many of Edinburgh's beautiful public gardens and parks are actually built on top of these mass graves. So when you're enjoying a peaceful afternoon in Princes Street Gardens, you're literally having a picnic on top of thousands of plague victims. Talk about location irony. Fact 35. Birkenhare's Murder Inn. Edinburgh's Westport area was home to one of history's most notorious murder houses. In 1828, Irish immigrants William Burke and William Hare ran a lodging house that doubled as a serial killer's lair. They discovered that Edinburgh's medical schools would pay good money for fresh corpses, about £7 to £10, equivalent to several months' wages. Rather than rob graves, they decided murder was more efficient. luring victims with alcohol before suffocating them to avoid marks. They killed at least 16 people before getting caught, selling the bodies to Dr. Robert Knox's anatomy school. After Burke was hanged, ironically in front of a massive crowd who'd paid to watch, his body was publicly dissected, and his skeleton is still on display at Edinburgh's Anatomical Museum. Talk about poetic justice with a macabre twist. Fact 34. Oldest building. In the heart of Edinburgh sits Scotland's oldest surviving house. Built around 1490, Smale Holm House predates most of Edinburgh's famous landmarks. This medieval dwelling has survived over 500 years of wars, fires, plagues, and urban development. From its timber-framed construction to its crow-stepped gables, the building represents the kind of architecture that once dominated Edinburgh, before most of it burned down or got demolished. It's a time capsule, showing what ordinary, wealthy ordinary Edinburgh residents lived in during the Middle Ages. Fact 33. Secret nuclear bunker. Along Edinburgh's suburban streets, there's a Cold War relic that looks like just another building. But beneath it lies one of Scotland's best-kept secrets. A massive nuclear bunker designed to house government officials in case of atomic war. Built deep underground with walls several feet thick, this facility was designed to be self-sufficient for weeks. Imagine Edinburgh officials preparing to watch the world end from their subterranean command center, while the city above turned into a nuclear wasteland. Today, some of these bunkers have been declassified and converted into museums, complete with the original equipment, decontamination chambers, and eerie 1960s Cold War propaganda. Fact 32. Greyfriars Bobby. In Victorian Edinburgh sits one of history's most heartwarming tales, and Edinburgh has milked it for all it's worth. Greyfriars Bobby was a Skye Terrier who supposedly spent 14 years guarding his owner's grave in Greyfriars Kirkyard, after the man died in 1858. The dog became a local celebrity, fed by nearby residents, and even got a special collar from the Lord Provost. When Bobby died in 1872, he was buried just inside the Kirkyard gates. Today, there's a statue, a pub, and countless souvenirs dedicated to this loyal pup. Historians have raised questions about whether the whole story was exaggerated or even fabricated for tourism. But honestly, it's way more fun to believe Edinburgh had the world's most devoted dog. Fact 31. Edinburgh Festival Takeover. Every August, Edinburgh's population nearly doubles during the world's largest arts festival. The Edinburgh Festival Fringe transforms the entire city into a massive performance space, with over 3,000 shows running simultaneously across hundreds of venues. We're talking about street performers on every corner, theatres operating in caves, comedy shows in underground vaults, and venues ranging from massive auditoriums to someone's living room. For 1 month, you can't walk 10 feet without encountering a performer flyering for their show. The Fringe started in 1947, when 8 theatre groups showed up uninvited to perform during the official Edinburgh International Festival. Today, it's the unofficial one that's become the main attraction, making Edinburgh the cultural capital of the world for a single chaotic month. Fact 30. Calton Hill's Folly. On Calton Hill sits one of Edinburgh's most embarrassing monuments. An unfinished Parthenon-style structure that was supposed to be Scotland's national monument, honouring those who died in the Napoleonic Wars. Construction started in 1826, with grand plans to replicate Athens's Parthenon. Then, they ran out of money after building just 12 columns, and never finished. This incomplete monument has stood for nearly 200 years as Edinburgh's most expensive architectural oops. The locals call it Edinburgh's disgrace, or Scotland's folly. Picture this. You're trying to position your city as the Athens of the North, and your big statement piece is an abandoned construction project that screams, "We couldn't afford to finish this." That's Edinburgh's version of leaving IKEA furniture half-assembled. Fact 29. Camera obscura magic. Since 1835, Edinburgh has housed one of the world's oldest purpose-built camera obscuras. This Victorian-era optical marvel uses mirrors and lenses to project a live, moving panorama of Edinburgh onto a white table in a darkened room. Like a primitive Google Earth, but powered entirely by Victorian physics. Watching Edinburgh's streets projected in real time without any electricity feels like witnessing actual magic. What you see is genuine 19th century technology that still works perfectly, projecting the city onto a disc where you can touch pedestrians and buildings with your shadow. It's proof that Edinburgh doesn't always need to be dark and haunted. Sometimes, it can just be wonderfully weird. Fact 28. Royal Mile misnamed. Here's a real Edinburgh trick. The famous Royal Mile isn't actually a mile long. This historic street connecting Edinburgh Castle to Holyrood Palace measures approximately 1.81 kilometers, which equals about 1.12 miles. But here's where it gets interesting. It is exactly 1 Scottish mile, an old measurement that was longer than the English mile. The Royal Mile consists of several streets: Castle Hill, Lawn Market, High Street, Canongate, and Abbey Strand, all running in a straight line down the volcanic ridge. It's Edinburgh's main artery, packed with closes, alleyways, branching off on both sides like ribs from a spine. Fact 27. World's first fire brigade. After a devastating fire in 1824 destroyed much of Edinburgh's old town, the city decided enough was enough and established the world's first municipal fire brigade, the Edinburgh Fire Engine Establishment. Before this, firefighting was handled by private insurance companies who would only put out fires in buildings their company insured. Imagine watching your neighbor's house burn while firefighters stood by checking if the policy was paid up. Edinburgh's solution was revolutionary. A publicly funded fire service that would help everyone, regardless of insurance status. It's one of those, wait, someone had to invent this? Moments in history. Fact 26. Underground pub crawl. In Edinburgh's underground vaults, there used to be taverns that would make modern health inspectors faint. These subterranean pubs operated in complete darkness, serving alcohol to Edinburgh's poorest residents and most questionable characters. No windows, no ventilation. Just stone chambers illuminated by candlelight where you could drink yourself into oblivion while literally being underground. The remains of these taverns still exist beneath the South Bridge, complete with fireplaces, bar areas, and the kind of atmosphere that says bad decisions were definitely made here. Today's ghost tours love these spots because they combine Edinburgh's love of booze with its love of being creepy. Fact 25. World's oldest medical school. Edinburgh's medical school, founded in 1726, is one of the oldest in the English-speaking world and became the global centre for medical education in the 18th century. During its heyday, students from around the world flocked to Edinburgh to study under pioneering anatomists and surgeons. The school's success created the demand that led to the body-snatching industry we mentioned earlier. These amazing medical advances came at a price, literally. That price was paid by people whose bodies ended up on dissection tables, voluntarily or otherwise. Talk about putting educational ambition before basic human dignity. Fact 24. Witch's Well. Near Edinburgh Castle's entrance, a small fountain marks one of the darkest spots in the city's history. The Witch's Well, installed in 1894, commemorates the approximately 300 people, mostly women, executed for witchcraft between 1479 and 1722. This understated memorial sits exactly where many of those executions took place. Castle Hill, where victims were strangled at a stake, then burned. When you're snapping tourist photos at Edinburgh Castle, you're standing on ground soaked in the blood of people killed for accusations as absurd as having a birthmark or being old and grumpy. The fountain's design shows both a serpent, representing evil, and a foxglove, representing healing, capturing Scotland's conflicted feelings about this brutal chapter of history. Fact 23. Palace of Holyrood House Secrets. At the bottom of the Royal Mile sits the Palace of Holyrood House, the British monarch's official Scottish residence. But this palace has seen some seriously dark history. In 1566, Queen Mary's private secretary, David Rizzio, was brutally murdered in her private chambers while she watched, pregnant and helpless. Her husband and nobles stabbed Rizzio 56 times, dragged his body through her bedroom, and left bloodstains that you can allegedly still see today. The palace tour guides will show you a plaque marking where Rizzio died, making it one of the few royal residences that openly advertises, yes, gruesome murder happened right here. It's very Edinburgh. Even the Queen's house has to have a ghost story. Fact 22. Princes Street Gardens Lake. Edinburgh's beautiful Princes Street Gardens weren't always a peaceful park. They occupy the site of the former Nor Loch, an artificial lake created in the 15th century by damming a natural stream. This wasn't some romantic Victorian landscaping project. It was Edinburgh's moat, a defensive water barrier on the castle's northern side. But here's the disgusting part. The Nor Loch became the city's dumping ground for sewage, dead animals, and occasionally, dead people. By the 1700s, it was so polluted and smelled so horrid that it became a health hazard. When Edinburgh expanded with the New Town in the late 1700s, they finally drained this festering swamp and converted it into gardens. Today, when you're enjoying a peaceful walk in Princes Street Gardens, you're strolling through what used to be Edinburgh's open sewer. Fact 21. Scott Monument. Weirdness rising 200 feet in the middle of Princes Street Gardens stands the Scott Monument, a Victorian Gothic rocket ship dedicated to author Sir Walter Scott. It's the largest monument to a writer anywhere in the world, and it looks completely bonkers, like someone designed a Gothic cathedral spire, forgot to attach a church, and just planted it in a park. You can climb the 287 steps to the top through an increasingly narrow spiral staircase that feels like it was designed to induce claustrophobia and test your commitment to literary appreciation. The monument is made from sandstone that was already polluted when construction started in 1840, which is why it looks perpetually black and gloomy. Very on brand for Edinburgh. Fact 20. Surgeons' Hall Museum, Horrors Hidden in Edinburgh, is one of the world's most disturbing collections. The Surgeons' Hall Museums. This medical museum houses anatomical specimens, surgical instruments, and pathology exhibits that will haunt your nightmares. Want to see an actual pocketbook bound in William Burke's skin after he was executed? It's there. How about preserved organs showing various diseases? Or the plaster cast of Burke's head? They've got that too. The museum houses the skeleton of Burke himself, displayed in a case after his body was publicly dissected. The collection includes everything from 18th century surgical tools that look like torture devices to specimens preserved in formaldehyde for 2 centuries. It's like Edinburgh looked at normal tourism and said, "Not creepy enough." Fact 19. Underground railway. In the 1890s, Edinburgh built an underground cable railway underneath the Royal Mile to transport goods between railway stations, avoiding the congested streets above. The Edinburgh Corporation Cable Railway operated through tunnels beneath the city, hauling coal, mail, and freight along a narrow-gauge track system. Picture a secret subway for cargo running beneath tourists' feet. The system operated until 1918, when road transport made it obsolete. Today, these tunnels still exist beneath Edinburgh's streets, sealed off but not destroyed. Another layer in the city's underground complex. It's like Edinburgh couldn't resist adding yet another hidden level to its already absurdly layered geography. Fact 18. Heart of Midlothian. Set into the cobblestones of the Royal Mile is a heart-shaped mosaic marking the entrance to the old toll booth prison. This spot, called the Heart of Midlothian, has a bizarre tradition. Locals spit on it. The custom comes from the building's dark past as a place of execution and punishment. Prisoners would walk from here to their deaths, and spitting on the spot became an act of contempt for the harsh justice system. Today, tourists following this tradition create a constantly glistening heart-shaped puddle of saliva on the Royal Mile. It's Edinburgh's most disgusting tourist attraction. A centuries-old custom of communal spitting that somehow became an expected part of visiting the city. Fact 17. National Museum treasures. The National Museum of Scotland houses some genuinely bizarre artifacts, including Dolly the sheep, the world's first cloned mammal, preserved in a display case. Dolly was created at Edinburgh's Roslin Institute in 1996, proving that mammals could be cloned from adult cells, and launching 1,000 science fiction plots about designer humans. Seeing her stuffed body in a museum feels like looking at the physical proof that humans started playing God. The museum also houses a guillotine used during the French Revolution, Egyptian mummies, and the Lewis chessmen. It's Edinburgh's way of saying, we're not just about castles and whiskey. We've also got dead clones and decapitation devices. Fact 16. St. Giles Cathedral's Thistle Chapel. Inside St. Giles's Cathedral sits the Thistle Chapel, one of the most elaborately decorated spaces in Scotland, and headquarters of the most ancient and most noble Order of the Thistle, Scotland's highest order of chivalry. The chapel was added in 1911 and features wood carvings so detailed it looks impossible. Angels, thistles, and heraldic beasts covering every surface in Scottish oak. But here's the weird part. Hidden among all that pious religious imagery are carvings of bagpiping angels, a carved spider, left intentionally by the craftsman, and grotesque faces. It's like the medieval carvers said, "We'll make your fancy chapel, but we're sneaking in some weird stuff too." Fact 15. Leith's shore past Edinburgh's Port District of Leith has always been rough, but during the 1700s and 1800s, it was Scotland's most notorious red light district. The shore area housed more brothels, gin shops, and gambling dens than anywhere else in Scotland, servicing sailors from around the world. The authorities basically gave up trying to control it, and just let Leith be Edinburgh's official vice district. So respectable Edinburgh society could pretend to be proper, while all their sinful businesses operated a few miles away at the port. Today, Leith has gentrified into trendy restaurants and apartments. but its streets still carry names that hint at its colorful past. Fact 14. Gladstone's Land Time Capsule. On the Royal Mile stands Gladstone's Land, a 17th century tenement preserved exactly as it was during Edinburgh's overcrowded heyday. The building shows how Edinburgh's wealthy merchants lived, and by modern standards, it's shockingly cramped. Multiple families shared the same building on different floors, with the merchant operating his shop on the ground floor and living upstairs. The rooms are dark, the ceilings low, and everything is squeezed together. You can see the painted ceilings, period furniture, and get a sense of just how claustrophobic life was when Edinburgh couldn't expand outward. It's a reality check for anyone romanticizing historic living. Fact 13. Rosslyn Chapel Conspiracy Magnet. Just outside Edinburgh sits Rosslyn Chapel, a 15th century church that's become ground zero for conspiracy theories. Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code claimed it housed the Holy Grail. Freemasons believe it contains secret symbolism, and various groups think it's connected to the Knights Templar. The chapel is covered in elaborate stone carvings, including what some claim is American maize, carved 50 years before Columbus reached America. Historians say it's wheat or strawberries, but conspiracy theorists aren't buying it. Today, visitors come to see the most mysterious chapel in Scotland, where the truth is probably just wealthy noblemen wanted really fancy carvings, but the legends are way more fun. Fact 12. Dean Village Hidden World. Tucked into a gorge just minutes from Edinburgh's city centre is Dean Village, a former mill community that feels like it exists in a different century. This tiny hamlet sits alongside the Water of Leith, where grain mills operated for over 800 years. Walking from Edinburgh's busy streets into Dean Village is like stepping through a portal. Suddenly, you're surrounded by converted mill buildings, stone bridges, and the sound of water rushing through the gorge. It's Edinburgh's secret neighborhood, proving the city loves hiding things, whether they're underground streets, buried plague pits, or entire villages in ravines. Fact 11. Edinburgh's 7 Hills Circuit. Those 7 hills we mentioned at the start? Some masochistic runners have turned them into an official challenge. The 7 Hills of Edinburgh race, covering all 7 peaks in a single, grueling route. The 14.3-mile course includes 2,200 feet of climbing. That's like running a half marathon while climbing to the top of a skyscraper. Runners tackle Arthur's Seat, Castle Hill, Calton Hill, Corstorphine Hill, Braid Hills, Blackford Hill, and Craiglockhart Hills in succession. It's Edinburgh's way of turning its impossible geography into a competitive sport, because apparently just walking around the city wasn't challenging enough. Fact 10. Old Calton Burial Ground. On Calton Hill sits Old Calton Burial Ground, one of Edinburgh's most atmospheric cemeteries, featuring monuments to philosophers, politicians, and 5 American sailors who died during the Napoleonic Wars. The American monument, an obelisk commemorating sailors from the USS Constitution who died while imprisoned in Edinburgh, represents one of the only foreign military monuments in the UK. But the real draw is the cemetery's theatrical atmosphere. Crumbling tombs, elaborate monuments, and views over the city that makes it Edinburgh's favorite goth photo location. It's like Edinburgh decided that regular cemeteries weren't dramatic enough and added scenic overlooks. Fact 9. Water of Leith Walkway. Running through Edinburgh is the Water of Leith, a river with an accompanying walkway that connects the city centre to the coast. This 12-mile path follows the river through hidden gorges, past Victorian mills, under ancient bridges, and through neighbourhoods most tourists never see. At various points, you're walking through deep wooded ravines that feel miles from civilization. Then suddenly, you emerge next to a main road. The walkway passes through Dean Village, the Gallery of Modern Art's Sculpture Park, and ends at the shore in Leith. It's Edinburgh's secret hiking trail, proving the city has nature hidden between all that stone and history. Fact 8. Craigmillar Castle's unspoiled state. While Edinburgh Castle gets all the tourist attention, Craigmillar Castle sits on the city's outskirts in remarkably complete condition. This massive 14th century fortress is where Mary Queen of Scots fled after David Rizzio's murder, and it's believed to be where the plot to murder her husband, Lord Darnley, was hatched. Unlike Edinburgh Castle, which has been modified, rebuilt, and touristified beyond recognition, Craigmillar remains largely intact and eerily empty. You can explore its towers, Great Hall, and defensive walls without crowds, giving an authentic sense of medieval castle life, cold, drafty, and with really inconvenient toilet arrangements. Fact 7. Flodden Wall Ghost. After Scotland's catastrophic defeat at the Battle of Flodden in 1513, where King James IV and thousands of Scottish soldiers died, Edinburgh panicked and built the Flodden Wall, a defensive barrier around the old town. Parts of this 16th century wall still stand today, cutting through the city in unexpected places. You'll be walking through modern Edinburgh and suddenly encounter a 500-year-old wall segment with an information plaque. The wall's greatest legacy was forcing Edinburgh to build upward instead of outward, creating those insane 11-story tenements and the overcrowding that defined the old town for centuries. It's essentially the structure that made Edinburgh vertically absurd. Fact 6. Parliament Building Controversy. The Scottish Parliament building, completed in 2004, became one of the most controversial structures in Edinburgh's history. Originally budgeted at £40 million, the final cost was £414 million, more than 10 times over budget. The ultra-modern design by architect Enric Miralles divided opinions spectacularly. Some call it an architectural masterpiece that perfectly captures Scottish landscape and democracy. Others call it a collection of sheds and the worst building in Scotland. It sits at the bottom of the Royal Mile, across from Holyrood Palace, its contemporary concrete and metal design clashing magnificently with the surrounding historic architecture. It's Edinburgh's most expensive middle finger to traditional design. Fact 5. Beltane Fire Festival. Every April 30th, Edinburgh hosts the Beltane Fire Festival on Calton Hill, a revival of an ancient Celtic celebration that involves fire, drumming, elaborate costumes, and pagan ritual. Thousands of participants and spectators gather to watch performers playing various characters, the May Queen, the Green Man, etc., in a procession that culminates in lighting a massive bonfire. Picture Edinburgh's otherwise reserved population going absolutely wild with body paint and fire performances on top of a hill in the city centre. It started in 1988 as a modern interpretation of ancient festivals and has grown into one of the largest fire festivals in Europe. Even Edinburgh's celebrations have to be historically themed and slightly weird. Fact 4. Edinburgh Dog Cemetery. On Edinburgh Castle grounds is a tiny, easily missed pet cemetery, where soldiers' dogs have been buried since the Victorian era. This small graveyard contains simple headstones marking the resting places of regimental mascots and soldiers' beloved companions, with inscriptions like Dobler, a faithful friend, and Jess, 1881 to 1893. It's simultaneously touching and strange that Scotland's most important military fortress dedicates space to deceased dogs. The cemetery proves that even in military strongholds, the Scots' love of dogs transcended formality. It's Edinburgh's most wholesome hidden spot, in a city otherwise obsessed with ghosts and gruesome history. Fact 3. Pentland Hills Wild. Just beyond Edinburgh's southern edge rise the Pentland Hills, a range of peaks reaching over 1,800 feet that feel completely remote, despite being visible from the city centre. These hills offer genuine wilderness hiking, with no crowds. You can walk for hours, seeing more sheep than humans. The Pentlands are protected as a regional park and feature reservoirs, Roman ruins, and trails that connect various peaks in long ridge walks. On clear days, you can see Edinburgh's skyline from the tops, making it possible to be genuinely lost in wild Scottish hills, while still technically being in Edinburgh's backyard. It's the city's escape valve, proof that even in Scotland's capital, proper Highland solitude is just a short bus ride away. Fact 2. Edinburgh's Lost Loch. Remember how we told you Princes Street Gardens used to be a disgusting loch? Well, Edinburgh had other bodies of water that have completely vanished. The Burgh Loch, and several other water bodies that once dotted the landscape around Edinburgh have been completely drained and built over. The Burgh Loch sat roughly where the Meadows Park is today, a popular spot for students and picnickers. In medieval times, this was Edinburgh's main water supply, before it became polluted and was eventually drained in the 1700s. Today's joggers and frisbee players in the Meadows have no idea they're running across what used to be a lake bed. It's like Edinburgh decided that keeping bodies of water clean was too much work, and just deleted them from existence instead. The city basically went, if we can't maintain our lochs properly, we'll just bury them and pretend they never existed. Fact 1. New Town's hidden genius. While everyone focuses on the old town's medieval chaos, Edinburgh's New Town represents one of history's greatest urban planning achievements. In the 1760s, Edinburgh held a competition for designing a completely new city to ease overcrowding in the old town. A 23-year-old architect named James Craig won with a revolutionary grid plan, featuring parallel streets, grand squares, and gardens, a stark contrast to the medieval mess across the valley. The new town was built over several decades on drained marshland and carefully planned to show off Enlightenment values, rationality, order, and elegance. Today, it's one of the most complete Georgian planned cities in the world and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Here's the genius part. The new town was designed to face the old town across Princes Street Gardens, that former sewage loch we mentioned, creating a perfect architectural dialogue between medieval and modern. You can literally stand in the middle and see 1,000 years of urban evolution in a single glance. Crumbling medieval tenements on one side, elegant Georgian townhouses on the other. It's Edinburgh's ultimate achievement, building a completely new city right next to the old one, without destroying either, creating a living museum of architectural history. The new town proved that Edinburgh could be both historically dramatic and rationally planned, medieval and modern, chaotic and orderly, all at the same time. Because why choose one identity when you can have competing identities staring at each other across a former sewage lake? So there you have it, 50 facts about Edinburgh that prove Scotland's capital is one of the most insane, contradictory, historically layered cities on Earth. From extinct volcanoes to flying toilets, from cloned sheep to underground streets, from plague pits to pagan fire festivals, Edinburgh has packed more weird history into one city than most countries manage in their entire geography. It's a place where ancient and modern collide, where every street corner has 3 layers of history beneath it, and where even the parks are built on something disturbing. What other city can claim to be simultaneously the most haunted city in Europe, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the birthplace of modern medicine, a former body-snatching capital, and the place where Harry Potter was written? Edinburgh doesn't just have history, it's drowning in it, building on top of it, and occasionally digging it up to see what's still down there. So the next time someone tells you Edinburgh is just about castles and bagpipes, you can hit them with the real story. A city built on volcanoes, organized around vertical living, powered by dark tourism, and somehow making it all work while looking impossibly beautiful.